Yeah, so the title says it all. I got into FNaF recently. Yeah. I know, I should have been more careful, but what's done is done, so I guess let's talk about FNaF for about an hour or two. Good lord, this video. First off, trigger warning for all the fanatical FNaF fans out there. Half this video is going to be me basically just complaining about how stupid I find FNaF and Security Breach to be. I do not have the highest opinion of this series. There'll be some praise in there, don't worry. Some praise. I've spent years ignoring FNaF. I'm not a fan of jump scares, and that's really the whole shtick, isn't it? Not interested. Later on, after many of the games came out, I found the whole series to be sort of soulless. Ironic. My opinion was, why are there like 500 games all of a sudden for this? This is one of those cash grab sellout series. Okay. Now, later at this point, my opinion is, why are there like 500 books for this? This is just a weird cash grab sellout series. So this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to bitch about how FNaF is structured like a lore landfill, and that Security Breach is sort of a shit game, but then I'm going to attempt to rebuild, recontextualize, restructure the FNaF brand, and rebuild this game into a series that is something more easily digestible. Basically how I would assemble it. Disclaimer, I guess for legal reasons I did not actually assume creative control at Five Nights at Freddy's, though feel free to mention me at the next shareholders meeting. So basically very opinionated content ahead, you've been warned. I'm going to have 13-year-olds burning effigies in my lawn. Consider this all just to be a thought experiment. For fun, entertainment value, it's alright. Don't take it too seriously. Or do, if you're bored. Here's my dress, let's do sword battle on my lawn. So why is this all happening? Why have I reached this sad point in my life? Specifically, or vaguely about weeks ago, I decided, of my own free will of course, with absolutely no input from certain overly horny internet fandoms, I decided to draw Roxanne Wolf from the hit video game series Five Nights at Freddy's: Security Breach, which is of course part of the popular video game series and multimedia franchise Five Nights at Freddy's. If you haven't heard of it, stop this video and just turn around. You're obviously living your life correctly, don't let me fuck it up. You may have seen some screeching child, or man-child, waving around a phone with some YouTube short content farm sing-along featuring a robot slapping a Fortnite character's ass, or something akin to that. Yeah, it's one of those cultural landmark identity thingies that we attribute to Zoomers and Alphas languishing in their TikTok videos. Of course, every generation has something like that. There's tons of 40, 50, 60-year-olds out there who groan every time they see some 30-something man-child quote SpongeBob. But, that's all a tangent. Let's get to my actual FNaF opinions. They're right here, under the floorboards. So, drawing FNaF characters. This is fine. Note, I'm not referring to the artwork you see being made right now. I'm referring to another artwork that I made weeks ago, when I draw popular cartoon video game characters for the first time, especially when I don't have a strong connection or prior knowledge about them. I like to stick with being semi-lore accurate as much as I can be, at least. So, while I was annoyed to do so, I figured it'd be helpful to at least scrub through some gameplay of Security Breach for some of these lore-accurate details. Most of the fan art online doesn't seem too accurate anyway. I don't think Roxanne has a built-in dick pump. Anyway, I got through that artwork. It's done and gone at that point, but it did take a few days to sort of put together, so while I was working on it, I may have led a playthrough of Security Breach playing its entirety several times. I hit the end of that playthrough video. Specifically, it was a no commentary full game walkthrough channel called The Game Archivist. I've ended up using them for a lot of my FNaF needs. I think they are okay. I'm not sure how to really recommend one no commentary video game channel over another. Anyways, for that playthrough video, I followed along well enough. Little kid stuck in the Mega Pizzaplex, trying to escape the bad robots by working with the one good robot. Then the ending I saw was the Burn It All Down ending. That's the one where you, Gregory along with Freddy, go underneath Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex into a giant cavernous sinkhole where the original, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has sunk down, find the rotting remains of an animatronic amalgamation, the combination of numerous animatronics from all the previous games, Battle a flesh and steel zombie animatronic that I had never known about up to this point, but apparently is the main antagonist of that game, before lighting the whole place on fire and escaping to live happily ever after with a sentient himbo Freddy Fazbear animatronic. And I'm unsure if that's the actual canon ending of the game. So, I understood little at this point. I effectively had narrative whiplash, but I had enough sense to understand the meme. Why FNaF lore is bullshit, and I know exactly why people obsess over it. Your ass needs a wiki and several YouTubers and a 69-part lore series to just unravel this shit. It's not a fandom, it's a job. I was so dumbfounded by that last 20 minutes. I know I'm like watching the 8th or 9th game in a series, but damn, the game is just so... It's a horror walking sim. Avoid the robots and escape. But so many major plot threads are just left dangling. Vanny, some person or being wearing a patchwork bunny suit who seems really interested in killing Gregory for some reason. I thought she was the main villain until the last 20 or so minutes, and then just poof, she's gone. No clue what happened to her. The female security guard, what was up with her? Well, no, she's gone. Now, I believe the animatronics were being controlled by the flesh monster underneath the Pizzaplex. I originally guessed it was Vanny controlling them because, that makes sense. But maybe she was just also there. Maybe she was like an in-between for the flesh monster. I wonder what the fuck that thing actually was. Can I get a lore note represented in-game by a giant duffel bag for whatever reason? And speaking of the fuck who people were, who the hell was Gregory? The main character. At the beginning of the game, he's just hiding inside Freddy's private compartment. That sounds bad. I assumed he was just a delinquent child running away from his parents. Security guard is obviously trying to track him down for them, but he just refuses to go with her? Why? I can understand, stranger danger, but did something happen? Did he encounter Vanny? Did the other robots scare him? How did our fucking main character even get into this situation? I thought there was a cutscene introducing all these characters, setting up the premise of this that was just straight up skipped. So is this FNaF? Just unanswered questions, mysteries, inconsistencies, flat out refusal to set up characters and explain their motivations, the assumption that you just know who someone is when they show up. Look, it's Robo-Zombie, I know him. Well, I don't know who or what that is. Is that a callback or a deep cut? It's like watching Infinity War as your first MCU movie. Who the fuck was the purple guy? See what I did there? Or, no, multiple endings. Is this Sonic Adventure 2? Do I need all the endings to make sense of all this, unlock the true ending or something? Well, no, I just got more confused. In the escape ending, Gregory is revealed to be homeless. He's sleeping in a cardboard box. Okay, I guess was in the Pizzaplex to steal old pizza? Or it's more possible that he was a runaway. He just found a nice bum nest to sleep in that escape but die anyway ending. That's possible. I have no other information about him. Why is he afraid of Vanessa? Why is he in the Pizzaplex after closing? How did he get into Freddy's compartment? Well, I guess we just don't need that information. He's just a little boy that can't do anything except get caught up in all this. Because we need a player avatar who only needs to be able to hold a flashlight. Okay, other endings. Well, Vanny is also apparently Vanessa. Okay, I can track that. That's a twist. A reveal, even. But maybe they aren't the same person in one ending. Vanny gets knocked off a building, demasked, and reveals that she's Vanessa. Okay. But then later she's back on the building staring at her corpse. So what, is she real? Is she a ghost? I get the feeling that's not a canon ending, it's just some artsy-fartsy bullshit. Why is it in there? What does it say? More importantly, why was she doing anything she was doing in the game? Why was she a murder bunny? What was her goal? Was she being controlled by the flesh bot underneath the Pizzaplex? Okay, let's assume so. For what purpose? Was she kidnapping kids for it? Did it give her powers to control the Pizzaplex security systems? And there's an ending where you free her from whatever mind control possession that she's under by playing a hidden arcade game, the Princess Quest games. These changed the gameplay of Security Breach into a top-down pixel adventure game. But I don't know why beating those actually helps her. There's no reason for that. I've seen that referred to as the good ending, save Vanessa or whatever. But that doesn't really matter because she's barely in the game at all. I believe there's 3 sections of the game where she's actually trying to sort of chase you down and behead you. Near the end of the game, she contacts you as Vanessa to taunt you or something, and I remember thinking, oh yeah, she's still here. I wonder what we're going to do with her in the last 20 minutes. What's the point of having a secret main antagonist controlling the main antagonist when both are barely in the game and I have no clue what they're actually trying to accomplish? Again, I feel like I am missing important information.
Mojo, you see, Vanessa is actually possessed/brainwashed at the end of FNaF Help Wanted by the digital entity known as Glitch Trap.
Glitch what?
Glitch Trap, the digital ghost and/or remnant of William Afton that is trapped in the beta version of the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience.
Virtual Fred what now?
The Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience. That is the game you, the player, aka Vanessa, is beta testing in Help Wanted.
The minigame collection.
Yes, well, it has the first
The
four.
VR minigame collection has vital story events required to understand the events of Security Breach.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I couldn't understand Super Mario Sunshine. I didn't play Mario Party 3. And that obviously has a scene where Bowser cream pies Peach. That explains Bowser Jr. It all makes sense. So, one wiki montage later, I have a better understanding of things. Vanessa is apparently the main character from FNaF Help Wanted, a VR game which is a collection of the remade FNaF games 1 through 4 and various minigames that apparently have meaningful story elements in them. She's a beta tester for the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience, the VR game itself. The game is stylized as such. Fazbear Entertainment has commissioned the VR game to lean into the company's bad public image of being associated with child-murdering robots and sort of contextualize it as all being marketing. So you play the remade FNaF games and some bolted-on mini-games to earn little scraps of lore and collectibles, crystal coconuts, and Cheeto pages. Until I guess you collect them all, and then as a reward you get possessed by something called Glitch Trap, unless you do a different ending where you resist the possession and seal Glitch Trap away, but I guess those are all non-canon endings. The wiki, there's multiple wikis by the way, says Glitch Trap is probably the digital ghost of William Afton. That's the child murderer who kicked off all the events of the games by shoving kid corpses into animatronics. Dumb idea. Because then their souls possess those animatronics and cause the various bites of 87, 97, 9/11 before Afton himself was tricked by the kid's spirits into wearing something called a spring-lock suit, which is a power armor-like animatronic suit that occasionally can malfunction and blenderize the poor bastard inside of it. I think all this happens before the first FNaF game even. And that didn't even kill him because he just became a flesh animatronic zombie thing called Springtrap, and I guess circuit boards of that suit got scanned into the Freddy Fartbear Virtual X Penis. And that data manifests as Glitch Brap, and that possesses Vagina, turning her evil so she can corrupt and lead the Glamrock animatronics down to the original Flippy Fastball's Puperia, I guess to free Burn Trap, which is probably the almost destroyed physical remains of Flapped and Spring Slap from when he was tricked and burned to death in FNaF 6 Penis Simulator. Huh. Yeah. But then in Security Breach: Ruin DLC, there's an entirely different new main antagonist called the Mimic, which is not related to Glitch Spring Afton Vanny Trap, the wiki says though maybe possibly. But you don't know about the Mimic because the entire DLC is pretending to be Gregory, and it's tricking Cassie, the new protagonist and Gregory's close friend, into delving into the decaying ruins of the Mega Pizzaplex. Oh, that got destroyed when Tangled, the massive animatronic amalgamation from the Burn It Down ending, burrowed its way out from under the Pizzaplex, because I guess caused massive earthquakes which condemned the place. The Mimic is in the original pizzeria in the deepest depths of the Pizzaplex, and the Mimic, as Gregory, contacts Cassie, somehow, and begs her into going to the Pizzaplex. It's tricking her into deactivating a security system called MXES, which is represented by something called the Entity, a rabbit-like digital ghost program, which is not Glitch Trap, by the way. This entity is stalking Cassie through the entire game whenever she's in AR mode. Oh, AR mode is how Fazbear engineer personnel interacted with the security system in the Pizzaplex, and all of this was there the entire time. Cassie enters AR mode by putting on a Vanny mask. I guess that's how Vanny controlled the security system in the base game. See, it does tie in. And this mask lets her walk through walls and destroy AR digital ghost nodes to shut down the security system. That, again, have always been there. Turning off these nodes shuts down the security and MXES and disables the Entity, all of which was actually suppressing the Mimic, and it lets itself free. And then you actually free it from behind a very much low-tech brick wall that you just knocked down with a forklift. After that, the Mimic reveals itself to you instead of instantly beheading Cassie, and you run away from it. And then the real Gregory contacts you, somehow, and calls you a dumbass, but then he saves you, but he actually doesn't save you, and he traps you underneath the Mega Pizzaplex, citing the fact that he can't let the Mimic / Burn Trap / maybe fucking Glitch Trap to escape. I don't know how he knows about all this. So, massive, huge story garbage fire there. We can just toss the whole Ruin DLC into a pit, I guess. What the hell was any of that? Where the fuck did this Mimic thing come from? Going straight to the wiki, he describes it as, quote, An experimental artificial intelligence created by Edwin Murray to copy any movement it sees and care for his son, David Sean Murray, whilst Edwin worked. After David dies in a car accident, Edwin beats down the mimic using a metal pipe out of grief and presumably infects it with his agony, making it immensely violent. Okay, I don't know who those people are or when any of this happens or what agony is, but I click on this little wiki link here and, it's apparently characters and concepts buried in the books, and I'm not doing that. I'm 30 now. I don't read books anymore. No one should. Without a doubt, damning evidence via my little tirade there, the meme is real. FNaF lore is an obsession. Most of it is actually watching speculation videos and debating theories, and that's part of the main appeal for a fandom, I guess. It's literally trying to piece together the current plot from various content drips from all the disparate media sources, which of course makes encountering a lone piece of it baffling. Well, from there I was corrupted, and I watched playthroughs of most of the previous FNaF games while browsing the wiki for explanations about what I was seeing. It's like watching movies on Amazon Prime and reading all the little x-ray facts that come up. At a certain point I decided I was probably going to have to make a video on all this, so I played Security Breach myself. That game is 70 gigabytes. Bluntly, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Some good parts, mostly bad parts. I stopped at the third Freddy upgrade sequence because I failed it twice, I believe, and at that point of the game there's only one save point you can use, and it's 5 minutes of gameplay, walking, to get back where I was, and it's bullshit. I just stopped caring. I never touched Ruin myself, watched full playthroughs of it. Seems tedious even if it has a little bit more gameplay in it. My conclusion to all this, FNaF is pretty frustrating lore-wise. It's like a giant wad of Christmas lights. You don't want to, but you're compelled to try to untangle it. There's no clean way to experience it all. You just have to start playing and reading and wiki binging. Isolated Security Breach itself is intriguing, I guess. What I experienced with Security Breach was just a vertical slice into the FNaF world, a little window, and you know what? It's sort of bad. But I'm not attached to any of these games or even the FNaF lore itself, so most everything is just superfluous. But I can be very clear about what I like. 2 points have me interested in this game. The Mega Pizzaplex itself, and the idea of animatronics, robot characters with overwhelming human emotions, brief little character ideas that are faintly, barely touched upon in the main game. First, the Mega Pizzaplex. Large, gaudy, overbearing, retro wave, revised 80s plastic pop aesthetic. It reminded me of other environments. My pattern recognition was firing. Rapture, the Von Braun, Talos 1, the Ishimura, the Spencer Mansion, Luigi's Mansion. High concept but sort of contained video game environments. You can call these bottled worlds, wide as a puddle, deep as an ocean. Every room has a purpose, gameplay and story aside, atmosphere is the most important thing. Everything is in its place, building and overlapping on each other to create a real location. In the Mega Pizzaplex, there's gift shops on every level. Because there should be. The place was built by the stock, uncaring capitalist corporation. Every 2 feet they're trying to sell you something. There's lavish theme park attractions for every mascot character built to wonder and awe, and every single one of them needs its own special pass to be purchased to even enter. And each one of them will maim or kill you if one little bolt comes loose. Behind every numbered security door there's these drab hallways for employees to shuffle through, adorned by workplace propaganda posters reminding them to smile and be happy and make the company lots of money. Security offices have automatic blast doors installed. The entire complex seals itself at midnight. Why? No reason. Just be sure to keep those locked. Beneath all this are in-house factory kitchens cranking out garbage slop food, custom distilleries for their own soda brands, employee locker rooms, and temp housing. Why do you even need to leave, really? Just live here. Parking decks and loading decks for the massive shipments that need to come in on a daily basis. Laboratories, testing facilities, and repair shops for researching and testing out the latest advances in animatronic achievement, and the subsequent need to repair the endless amounts of damage and where it all accumulates, or causes. Even further down, an endless maze of sewers and trash heaps for the mountains of garbage and waste. If you're going to build a massive entertainment complex with a vast array of caverns and sinkholes, you might as well fill all that space with something. And then right at the bottom, where it all began, that first little pizza place. Its horrible little secret. Now, doesn't that sound cool when I specifically go out of my way to sell it like that? Why, I would love to immerse myself walking around in that sim. Really, it's just so ripe for like just good level design, fun glitzy theme park areas, drab soulless workspaces, sprawling food factories, sewers. Every game needs sewers. World design or building lore, whatever, all that's sort of my jam, and I quite enjoy the Pizzaplex in a presentation sense. A lot of work when designing those spaces, the theme parks, the characters, the in-game character art and merchandising. It checks all those boxes for me. And I don't want it to go to waste because it's trapped in this weird, shitty series. Now, some of that cool description I gave does rely on the shitty series lore to inform it, and that's okay. I'm fine with letting that in as long as it doesn't devolve into requiring numerous outside sources just to understand what's happening. Just pack it all up in a nice, neat little single game. To sort of explain my thought, my viewpoint on all of this, think about BioShock's Rapture. All those environments, all built up via lore notes and audio tapes and environmental storytelling. I know the story of Rapture, the Cliff Notes version anyway, and I don't need a wiki to guide me to a base level of familiarity. I think it just begun in a single game, just through duffel bag notes and the Mega Pizzaplex. And I'll take a risk. I think the Plex can compare to Rapture. I can explain why my pattern recognition is firing. The specific strong aesthetic presentation, revised 80s retrowave neon high concept theme park, and the mighty lavish man conquers all art deco, both are loud and bold and very gaudy. The merciless advertising and the merchandise of the Pizzaplex lines up somewhat to the caution to the wind plasmid and the wonders of science 50s styles marketing of Rapture. The specific scientific achievement of having essentially sentient AI controlled animatronics and a vast security network is the same sort of technological leap plot point as a contained, scientifically elite society stumbling on a magic phazon slug that can just give people superpowers by rewriting their DNA. Well, maybe one of those is a little bit more world-changing, but the same theme of like flippant science advancement and its consequences. Sort of core sci-fi themes. Thinking to BioShock, where you first take the bathysphere down and Andrew Ryan is narrating the goal of Rapture. He's literally giving you part of the backstory via an introduction that presumably all the guests to Rapture experience. And it makes sense, of course. This is how a megalomaniac like Ryan is going to present and show off his city. It is an in-game explanation of lore that doesn't feel out of place. To compare, in the Ruins DLC, and this is a deep cut maybe, there's a section where you get stuck on this Monty Gator ride. And you see some of his backstory, the backstory of the character, as the ride travels along. And it's a designed backstory since he's like the mascot or whatever. He was just a simple country gator before being given a part in the glam rock band by Glam Rock Bonnie. Now I'm not going to get into the minutia of what's actually being implied and said there in a story sense, but it's an excellent way to give backstory to a player that feels natural. A theme park ride. Notice the lack of books that I needed to read to understand all that. No wiki, no gamer theory, no static dialogue, heavy cutscenes, not even a lore note. I give these comparisons to sort of explain how I'm viewing Security Breach. I see a cool setting that I want to delve into, environments I want to explore. This is the greatest strength of the game objectively, I think. Now, I have forced these two games into a rough comparison and pointed out the same vague shape, presentation-wise. I'm trying to get people to look at this game from a very specific angle. But what about the gameplay? What's on the sandwich? Well, BioShock is an FPS from 2007. It's easily understood enough. You interact with everything via a gun or magic. Security Breach is a first-person horror exploration game with stealth mechanics, puzzles, and story. So a walking sim. A grab bag of leftover mechanics that are easily implemented and in a vacuum barely really affect one another. On this metric, these games are very, very, very far apart. One of them is clearly the game you would like to play, and the other one is the one you would watch a playthrough of, to put it bluntly. Your interactions with Security Breach are limited mainly to walking to an objective area, performing some task that involves holding E for way too goddamn long while avoiding the non-sexy and sexy robots. There are breaks to this, like a very simple FPS section in Phaser Blast, memory games when upgrading Freddy, lots of little minor, different gameplay sections, which walking sims are sort of known for. The whole objective of the game is to escape the Pizzaplex, which involves you outlasting the midnight to 6 a.m. lockdown, which subsequently gets extended if you choose to stay and figure out what the fuck is going on which is pointless because you need to look at you anyway. Throughout your adventure, Freddy is your guide, informing you of the next possible actions you can take. Hey, superstar, go over there to progress. I've marked it on your Faz map and your Faz watch and the Faz fucking menu. More importantly, you can finally live out every young boy, and gay furries, fantasy of actually being able to get inside Freddy and pilot him, which protects you from pretty much everything. You can do this in most areas, actually, which lets you pretty much skip past everything. The only limit being a power meter. If you drain that power meter, Freddy will kill you, for some reason. At first I thought being able to skip past everything was sort of cheap, but after I actually played the game myself and got grabbed about a dozen times by those stupid fucking security bots, I realized it's fine. Fuck those stupid bots. If one pixel of their flashlight hits you, they will grab you instantly and jump scare you. I've been grabbed through walls, obstacles, all sorts of bullshit. I've opened the door briefly and been instantly grabbed by a stealth bot just because one happened to be behind it. And of course, when you get grabbed, one of the main animatronics spawns behind you and chases you until you're able to break eyesight for a bit. Unless you're in a shit location for running, so they'll just be able to chase you endlessly. So fun. That's all boilerplate walking sim horror game stuff. That shit popped off of Amnesia and it hasn't really changed since. A slightly interesting part of the game is determining the objectives that you want to do. You can actually do some things in different orders. As you explore the Plex, you'll find upgrade items and lore notes, some of which are behind leveled security doors. This requires you to seek out security offices first to upgrade your security clearance, which sometimes requires you to deal with the murderous animatronics, either in classic FNaF style of camera watching and energy management, or something novel like baking Chica a pizza to distract her. The game presents you with choices on which large objective you want to do, and you'll have to choose one. Spend your party pass ticket to either go to Phaser Blast to get a blaster to stun the bots, or Monty Golf to get a Faz Cam to stun the bots. Each of those locations gives you a ticket to another side attraction where you can go to find some objective or clear something, find a key, and then that lets you go to either Monty or Chica to defeat them, steal their upgrade, and install it into Freddy. Those upgrades sort of function as Metroid power-ups, and they let you access other parts of the Plex. Namely, the closed Roxy Racing, where you go to get another item, /ticket, whatever, then you go somewhere else, do a set piece, blah blah blah, you smash a go-kart to Roxy's face and steal her eyes. At this point it's 6 a.m. and you can just leave, sort of accomplishing nothing in terms of the story. Staying lets you continue to explore the Plex for Donkey Kong 64 bananas, and you can choose to investigate Vanny's hideout for her endings. Or you can confront the last remaining Glam Rock, get all the upgrades into Freddy, and then you access the elevator down to the old pizzeria to fight whatever it is that's down there. All of this is standard for the genre, bare bones even, flat out annoying most of the time, and occasionally just frustrating. Go here, get the thing, then go there to get the other thing. Don't get grabbed and humped to death. Gameplay-wise, a horror walking sim can skip straight to tedious really fast. Literally just one death, one obtuse puzzle, one out-of-sight key item, and I'm just annoyed and uninterested, and I want to stop playing. Really, these games sort of rely on interesting puzzles, non-tedious hide-and-seek stealth sections, and then set-piece chase sequences to drive gameplay, and there's probably a ton of ways to do all that. Take that other Zoomer Core mascot horror game Poppy Playtime. As silly as it looks, that weird grabber arm backpack you have is different. It lets you do all sorts of different puzzles and movement options. It's something. Hell, Ruin has those panels and wrench puzzles. Personally, I'm just in favor of shifting over to survival horror and letting the players sweat about resource management. Here's a shotgun and 3 shotgun shells. Make them count. That's an entirely different game, though, called Resident Evil. So, we have one pro so far. The Mega Pizzaplex is very interesting to me, and I think I've hammered that home. As for cons, every ending is unsatisfying to me. The gameplay is unsatisfying to me. The characters are unsatisfying to me. Aside from Freddy, I guess. Here we're going to sort of circle back to the other thing I found interesting about Security Breach, the sexy horror mascot characters. Freddy serves as an interesting idea, a science fiction plot point. He's a sentient AI that lives inside the world's largest Chuck E. Cheese, where he does nothing but entertain children and attend birthday parties, and sing. His mindset's pretty interesting. He seems aware of the vague bad things that happen nightly at the Plex, but he doesn't seem able or even interested in stopping them, though he seems to acknowledge they are bad. They're just normal to him, I guess. I'm guessing this is a programming thing. He seems to genuinely enjoy entertaining children and being like a glam rock band singer, and he seems to think of his bandmates as his genuine friends, even though they're all acting like psychotic killers, or at the very least a legitimate threat to humans. This is distressing to him once Gregory shows up. He doesn't want them to kill Gregory. There was a part of the game where I thought the plot was going to shift to Freddy turning on Gregory for using parts of his bandmates to upgrade him. But, that never happened. Freddy is just a reliable guardian. He needs to keep his power charged or he bites Greg's face off. And the safeties need to sort of come off when you're upgrading Freddy, and then one little misclick results in him jump scare game overing you. Freddy seems to be totally capable of the same violence as his band members, but the game never plays around in that area unless they explicitly tell you this is what's going to happen. There's many implications with this and the other animatronics' existence as well. Are humans aware that the animatronics are sentient? All the workers seem to know that the animatronics constantly are getting into trouble via their impulsive behaviors, but are those just programming bugs to them? This is a vague topic in the game, and I'm unsure of what its stance is. My best guess is that the public is aware that the robots are super advanced and their actions, while sometimes unsettling and annoying, can just be within their intended personas. Everything's under control, I guess. Except the workers in the company know that the robots are not under their complete control, and they just work around it, despite the constant repair costs and the possible, injury settlements. While this is all very fitting for a corrupt company like Fazbear Entertainment, there is this need for the suspension of disbelief that that there are super advanced robots running around constantly fucking everything up, and this has no effect on the setting other than, a few bites, maybe a few dead people here and there. Perhaps there's some canon somewhere that explains the year is 20 or 40, and this isn't that unusual. The tech is more reasonable. It makes me think that there's an army of Spec Ops Freddys assassinating high-value targets in the Middle East or something. I see that the personalities of the animatronics, the nature of their existence, is a topic that is often brushed aside by the writers and developers because this is a FNaF game, and that means a scary, screaming robot jumps at you. But one of my favorite moments in the game is of genuine humor. It's when Gregory opens up the free mystery prize gift in the gift shop, and he gets in his disappointed words a crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet. To which Freddy expresses genuine remorse and apologizes that they even give out such a shitty prize. It's a real character moment. The conflict of Freddy being a company man, yet being aware of how bad things really are, that's interesting. We have legitimate, sentient AI beings, but it's unclear if anyone knows that. There's no point where Greg is in wonder of Freddy's very human personality. Why not explore some of that? No, wait, we gotta spend 5 hours playing a useless game just so we can get 10 minutes of FNaF plot development spread across 5 or 6 endings. I think we can do better. Not only for the setting, but the characters in it. Overall, my plan here is to restructure the entirety of the FNaF series to compact everything down into just Security Breach. Really not a hard task, as one might think, as long as you're willing to disregard entire games and books. I've mostly watched playthroughs of the core series, and I've familiarized myself enough with the basic lore to create something that I think can stand on its own. As previously stated, I don't read books, nasty habit, so if there's anything in those 50 FNaF novels that's actually worth the damn, it's getting left behind. Sorry, I've got everything I need pretty much already. I'm doing this for fun and possibly your entertainment. This is all going to get sort of sloppy, and I'm not going to really decide on any one thing. I'm going to be machine gunning ideas, so I'll end up throwing out 2 or 3 suggestions for any one topic. It's almost like a challenge to try to thread everything together at the end. I'll try to have some sort of summary for all the key points at the end of everything. First, what are we starting with? From what I can tell, most of the core lore, that is, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the animatronics, William Afton, various bites of whenever, dead kids, those are only represented in the games by unlock cutscenes. All of that's just a story that's separated from the actual games. And then you piece that all together from those cutscenes and little info drops. The first 4 games, honestly, just attention management, mini games, and jump scares. Not saying anything about the quality or that type of gameplay, it's just that we just really need to take those couple paragraphs of core lore and keep it for ourselves. Game number 5, Sister Location, actually has a character, Michael Afton, doing an actual timeline event, namely being turned into a skin suit, However, sister location in Game 6, that's Pizzeria Simulator, as far as I can tell, only provides us with 2 story beats to Security Breach. The first, and of actual great significance, is the burned, then buried pizza place that the Plex is built upon. And that's from the ending of the 6th game. The second is Will.i.am Afton, aka Scrap Scream whatever, being burned semi-alive in that same fire and becoming trapped in that old pizzeria, which makes a lot of sense if he's also Burn Trap. If. It would make a lot of sense. But then Burn Trap might be something else, the Mimic, whatever the fuck that is. Moving on, FNaF 7 is the ultimate custom night game, which, according to some sources, but not me, because that's a fucking FNaF simulator, toss it. FNaF 7 for real is Help Wanted 1, which I would also toss for being a fucking minigame bundle, but it's got Vanessa, who may be useful in our brave new FNaF that I'm creating here. Plus, the idea that Fazbear Entertainment is attempting to recontextualize their sordid history it's interesting to me. FNaF 8, Security Breach, that's where we're at. And FNaF 9 is Help Wanted 2, which I'm not considering yet, maybe, probably not. So, what I'm starting with is 1, the original FNaF lore, 2, a burned and buried pizza place with a spooky demon trapped inside of it, 3, a possible antagonist and protagonist in the form of Vanessa, 4, a hilarious, corrupt, and infamous Fazbear Entertainment. And finally 5, the general premise of Security Breach. Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex is a theme park restaurant, home to state-of-the-art animatronic 80s glam rock theme band, numerous other animatronic characters and attractions, complex security staff and security systems, overpriced food, dangerous rides, and mountains of soulless merchandise, all loosely based on Fazbear Entertainment's old and controversial Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria restaurant. Alright, in the beginning, say we have William Afton and Henry Emily, or whoever else was involved with the starting of the original Fazbear Entertainment, or whatever other companies. We're just dealing with Fazbear Entertainment, to be honest. Huge technological strides are made in the fields of robotics and animatronics. Not enough to change the course of history or anything, but still notable. Maybe the company gets off the ground as a sort of successful, or it's right at that point of technological breakthrough. Hey, let's open a pizza restaurant. Oops, William's a child murderer. Fuck. Unfortunate. He's killing kids and shoving them in animatronics. Oh, William. This obviously isn't good. Maybe Henry finds out and tries to stop William. Maybe right then and there. He finds William over a kid corpse and Henry decides to kill William by burning down Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the place that they built together. Here we could have Henry trigger the spring locks in the suit that William is wearing. He liked to wear the suits to lure children into a false sense of security. Henry could also just set fire to the place. Setting fire to the place is an excellent way to remove evidence and also protect the company. As for William, maybe he realizes that the only way to survive the fire is to get inside of a suit, which would probably squish him. Maybe he knows he can link up with it. We can keep the tech vague, but perhaps it's a form of brain scanning or neural connection. We can make the whole thing darker by saying the secret sauce to a William tech was using humans in the creation of each one. Yeah, go full Rusty Venture and create machines powered by the hearts of orphans. Could explain how we get a rotting zombie animatronic in the ruins of the old pizzeria some decades later. That does stand out as being somewhat fantastical, to be honest. The link between humans and these machines has some juicy sort of science fiction body horror possibilities. Anyways, but Afton gets stuck in a suit and burned alive while Henry gets away. Imagine these lifelike animatronics, almost real emotions and behavior. How do you build it? How do you even program this kind of AI? Taking shortcuts, shady human experiments, human sacrifice. That's good science fiction. That's fun. That's what you really need to drive home this soulless corporation only concerned with profits. All of this sets William up as the buried, forgotten monster, an abuser of science facing its consequences. But with Henry, he gets away. We could set him up as a flawed, tormented figure. He should have gone public with the crimes of Afton, destroyed the company, and buried the tech. But maybe the temptation was too strong. Just a few PR moves and he could rebuild Fazbear Entertainment as a leader in children's entertainment. I don't know why they're obsessed with that, but they are. Maybe at this point, Fazbear Entertainment has some infamy. Up to this point, there have been numerous disappearances related to the restaurant. Afton's work, obviously. Perhaps there's even been a few incidents, bites, if you will, over the years. And people are starting to talk. Maybe, Henry thinks, If Afton's gone, no more spooky problems. Maybe he doesn't even know how these bots got built in the first place. He's in the dark. So he decides just to hush up. Maybe they still have some animatronics left over. Just gotta polish them up, keep their behaviors in check, wind the music box, put on the Freddy mask. Decades later, Henry could still be in the company, have the years of guilt, hiding the truth reduced him to this weak figure trying to reign in the company, scared of the truth, or has he hardened, letting his greed overpower his decency, villainizing him? There's a lot of positions that this character could occupy, but he could easily just fade back into the company as a whole. The clearest role he has would be a target of revenge for Afton. As for the animatronics, let's say that the child-powered robots could have taken a liking to murdering security guards. Again, maybe even since the early days with William Afton. That certainly holds true to the FNaF spirit, if there exists one. Hey, I want to take that job, man. Everyone who does the night shift there quits or goes missing. Really weird how the police don't care. In a less serious and more subtle way, as alluded in Security Breach, the animatronics could show the intended complex personalities, but compulsive, strange behaviors, sometimes destructive ones. For example, Chica can't resist eating pizza despite being unable to process it because she's a robot. These personalities could be based on the individual spirits or brain scans residing in the bots, or they just could be the natural result of the human battery messing with the programmed AI personalities. Anyway, what's important is that these two real animatronics are a legitimate hit with kids and guests when they work. They have to be for the company to even be successful, as it is without going into some sort of backroom deals with the government and the like. Their maintenance and sort of odd, scary behaviors, walking around at night, bites, they could be a constant financial and PR nightmare. The company would definitely have its work cut out trying to maintain both insane robots and its public image. While William's actions, the missing children's incident or incidents, contributed to these controversies, spooky robot actions could also be adding to the company's woe, bringing in some of that established FNaF lore, bringing in some spooky stuff. However, exactly how the company could maintain profits or even have the capital to splurge on the Mega Pizzaplex is its own problem. I guess it would either involve a lot of corruption and cover-up to keep up business, or possibly things just go quiet for a while. No more further accidents, no more disappearances, no bites, nothing major anyway. Perhaps just some creepy behavior. The company is able to maintain the bots, build new ones at existing locations, whether it's few or a dozen, either way works. The company, despite having strange incidents and injuries and disappearances in its history, is legitimately successful with its business. And that brings us to now, the Mega Pizzaplex. The company could be in several different conditions. It could be hemorrhaging money, the bad PR over the years is actually killing it, and the Plex is sort of a last-ditch effort to make everything work. Everything could be going fine. It's just a rebrand or a new effort. Maybe profits are dipping just a little bit and the company overreacts and decides to ride the Stranger Things retro wave surge and redesign all of its old characters for a hit new Zoomer audience. Maybe. The company really wants to know how William Afton created these things in the first place. It's been lost tech all these years. They've been able to maintain and revamp their bots, but the core of an Afton animatronic is just a mystery to them. The ones that they have could finally be breaking down after years of use. The copies that they've made are just not as good. Maybe they just want to update the new designs, more controllable, more realistic, more sexy. But the tech is just, again, a mystery to them. They go to Afton's old lab, conveniently buried along with the original pizzeria, obviously, and start building the Plex right on top of the whole thing. Lets them explore the location at their leisure. They control access to it. It's also why they would build a multi-million-dollar complex over an array of sinkholes. It could be that the pizzeria is the last location of the original prototype, core schematics, whatever. Maybe it's just because they own the land there. Regardless, they end up finding Afton or Afton's corpse, looking like the master from Fallout, bio-integrated into his computer systems or into the animatronic. Sort of like Tangle in Security Breach. A big body horror shock, flesh and steel merged together. Obviously, this is going to be very horrifying, and of course the company's not going to really care. There's profit to be made. The secrets of Afton tech are right in front of them. Kick Afton to the corner, where's his fucking research data? Here, the story possibilities sort of branch out into many different directions. But what I think is important is making Afton like the big bad, the end boss. Somehow, Afton has returned. Because there's not really a villainous character in our pile of FNaF lore that we can use. Sure, Fazbear Entertainment or Henry Emily could sort of fulfill this role. That's an idea, and we can play around with that, sure. But I think keeping Afton around gives us a character that goes sort of all the way back to the start of the lore, and he's also a creepy robot zombie, which that's worth a few points anyway. The company and Henry could end up representing more humanistic flaws of sort of greed and negligence. Based on what maybe happens in Help Wanted, the company pillages the old tech unknowingly or knowingly, scanning Afton's digital ghosts into their databases or whatever, which turns into some sort of sentient AI virus, a Digimon if you will. That serves as sort of the spooky ghost that Vanessa sees in the Help Wanted that possesses and brainwashes her. Motivation-wise, what's he doing? Could be angry that he was blended, burned alive, and trapped in a state of unbelievable agony. Wants a little revenge. On Henry, of course, to take/ruin the company that Afton thinks he stole from him. That's simple enough. He could be happy with his new immortal existence as a Digimon. He just wants to kill some kids again, based on what's happening in Security Breach with Vanny. She's apparently sort of doing the same thing he was. Kidnapping and killing kids, He's living vicariously through her. That gives him sort of a simple but dark evil goal. You could take things into more of a fantasy land saying, killing kids is keeping him alive in whatever sense that means, whatever hardened of a orphan tech that they have. It could be making him stronger. That makes him sort of need and want a Vanny to be his physical hand in the world. Of course, he could be using the robots for that, but I imagine a human touch is going to be very useful at times. Going back, maybe the company finds Afton and just knows exactly what happened. Well, obviously Afton connected himself knowingly or unknowingly to the suit or animatronic and has trapped himself in a possibly immortal and godless fusion of man and machine. How do we exploit this? I can see them keeping him as an experiment, a case zero for devious research and all sorts of things. It is sort of funny just to think that all they care about is lifelike animatronics. Completely ignore the medical, biomechanical, engineering implications or whatever. We need Freddy to blink more realistically and bite less lethally. Anyway, he's a case zero. They use him for reference in building new animatronics. Maybe they consult with him. Maybe he's still fucking sane or something. He's their lead researcher in the basement. He needs a few kids every now and again to shove into machines so they can make a dancing alligator for a theme park in Florida. That makes Fazbear Entertainment very complicit and incredibly evil, and I like that. One interesting concept that I'm probably going to go with is Afton's unique condition of being sort of half robot for a few days or decades, or having his brain slowly digitized in that time. This allows the company, to base their complex pizza AI master control around his digital ghost self. They could know or not know anything about what's happening, or him being alive. They just need his sort of digital ghost brain to base everything on. That lets you set the entire game as little Gregory fighting the entire pizzaplex that's controlled by an Afton AI. Say Vanny was brainwashed by Afton AI while she was working on the AR/VR stuff. She starts abducting kids, using the Vanny mask to control the electronic system, sort of entertain them and lure them into a false sense of security. All these child ghosts empowering central AI Afton are enough so he could break through his control parameters, and on this particular night, Afton launches his plan to take over the Plex. Order 69, he gains control over the bots so that the next big concert that they throw, he could turn the entire Pizzaplex into an absolute bloodbath. Fazbear Entertainment's done, Henry Emily blows his brains out with a shotgun, and Afton gets his revenge. Maybe he has secret plans afterwards to download himself into Vanny so he can live again, continue to kill. Unless a malfunctioning Freddy eludes Afton's control virus and helps a last potential victim undo all of his master plans. That's a little high stakes for a horror game, but it's self-contained. We didn't need 3 side games or to scan a QR code hidden in a Twitter post, no books or graphic novels. I think it's a neat premise. So here, we can finally touch upon the actual game. You are Gregory, a kid who is trapped in the Pizzaplex after closing and you need to survive the night to get out. For simplicity, Greg's just a normal kid. Maybe he ran away from his parents, backstory unimportant, but he's a huge FNaF fan, huge FNaF head. He's the ideal case for Vanny, the new kidnapper on the block, and she lures him into the Plex near closing to be yet another sacrifice for Afton or his experiments, or maybe just to be another missing kid, one more for the road. Regardless, for some reason Gregory gets away. This clearly defines Vanny as a threat. Perhaps in escaping he learns of her true identity as Vanessa, which gives a reason why he can't just go to the security guard and be safe for the night. All of this ends with him meeting Freddy, your partner in the game. A malfunctioning Freddy has been taken offline after botching yet another performance. This lets him dodge the takeover.exe that Afton or AI or Vanny launches to control a Plex or make him turn haywire. Maybe being taken off the grid blocks him from accessing all the usual systems, so he ends up in the dark just as much as you. What's happening is more portioned out as you uncover what's going on. Freddy's avoidance of the AI scramble due to his malfunctioning is fitting. The sloppy tech of the company actually saves it from being destroyed by its own shady past and sheer incompetence. The first goal is to find a way out. That's all that Freddy is focused on, protect the child. But as you explore the Pizzaplex, you quickly learn that there's a lot more going on than you think. The nightly lockdown's even tighter than usual. Oh, did I mention that the bots are sort of murderous at night? Yeah, sorry about that, Gregory. Numerous rides and attractions are malfunctioning. The other glam rocks have gone completely insane, more so than usual. All their bad personality traits are magnified to their extremes. And worst of all, Vanny, the mysterious patchwork rabbit, is dead set on finding Gregory. And she's able to bend the bots to her will to aid in her goals. Numerous obstacles stand in your way. Every exit attempt dead ends or is actively blocked. Collecting security badges and clearance levels only lets you go deeper and deeper into the complex. The true nature of the Pizzaplex, Fazbear Entertainment, the animatronics slowly becomes revealed and a new objective is presented. Stop what's ever happening. Shut down the Afton AI and delete him. Destroy his rotting body. Free Vanessa from his control, expose the company for its crimes against nature, save the animatronics. Well, that last one's weird. A big part of the game I'd like to heavily retool are the glam rocks as antagonists. This is mascot horror, so we're in the awkward situation where the spooky thing you're running away from is also the selling point of the game. I don't necessarily disagree with the premise, and perhaps I'm working with it by suggesting this. I'd like to structure the game around stages or levels where you're sort of dealing with the glam rocks as characters, their personalities, their specific situations, their themed attractions. The base game touches on this subtly. For example, Roxy is obsessed with winning and being the best to the point of being psychotic and violent over it, and if she ever loses, she just spirals into depression. Let's propose this. The Mega Pizzaplex is haywire. All the bots are in kill mode, even more than the usual weird shit that the employees have to deal with. Each of the glam rocks is off their rocker, completely given into their worst personality traits. Yet each glam rock has some sort of key or ability that you need to fight against Vanny and Afton AI. As you navigate the Plex with Freddy trying to find a way out, trying to figure out what's going on, you are given scenes where the animatronics can display their personality, show what they got going on, and you can work out what they're dealing with. Freddy wants to help his friends, and maybe you, Gregory, as the super FNaF fan, wants to as well. Here's a scenario. You're walking with Freddy and you hear a huge commotion, crashing and destruction. In the next room, things are completely broken, destroyed, signature claw marks over everything. Freddy sees this and remarks, "Oh no, Monty's never been this bad." Later you see this rampant destruction become more focused, targeted on the Freddy statues, his cutout and artwork, all torn apart. Okay, Monty hates Freddy, but why? They always get along on stage. Say you get to Monty's stage or his level, Monty Golf, the Bayou Backwoods or whatever. You discover some makeshift stage has been set up. Tons of security bots bound to chairs, nailed to the floors, shattered so they can't move. A captured audience. There's some other security bots on stage holding the instruments, or poorly grafted to them. They have little masks on them. Notable is the bot playing Freddy, who's smashed or in a cage or something, humiliated in some way. A Pizzaplex sign has been sort of torn down and changed to read Monty Gator's Mega Pizzaplex. Suddenly, the lights dim down and Monty stomps out, microphone in hand, addressing the crowd, and you realize he's trying to entertain them. He's getting ready for a performance. The music starts and it builds, and Monty tries to belt out the first lyric, and it's just god-awful. The whole audience reacts positively in some stiff, coerced manner, but there's one bot who mentions, hey, isn't Freddy the singer? And then Monty just rips him apart, destroys him on the spot. Now, what do we know? Obviously, Monty has some anger issues, and he is deeply jealous of Freddy being the lead singer. Fairly simple, I know, but I now understand Monty's premise as a character. I understand what he's starting from, which bumps him up to at least a standard level of interest. Compared to the base game, like, the antagonist spots have nothing going on there. Monty is just violent. That's it. I don't know anything else about him. Chica is dumb and likes to eat. Okay, fetish potential, but that's it. Roxy has some inferiority complex issues. Hey, that's something. But all that results in her just crying because she hasn't killed Gregory yet. It's odd to look at the fandom for Security Breach or FNaF as a whole and seeing all this like fandom characterization that people have made for these characters when almost none of it exists in the games, aside from the most bare-bone concepts. Any backstory these characters receive is always separated from the games, or it's just their base-level actions. If anything, memorable only because of how they kill you and their in-game mechanics. They're murder machines. They, kill security guards because they perceive all adults as threats, because the animatronics themselves are possessed by the victims of the child murderer William Afton. Their horror appeal exists in that uncanny valley of cute mascot characters that are actually nightmare fuel if you like them right. Clowns or something like that. People want to see that sort of ugly side. They're interested in seeing that, like decayed statues of Mickey Mouse or whatever at abandoned Disney parks. The ugly side, that's the lasered-eyed Terminator underneath the fake happy shell. The endoskeletons, creepy and wrong-looking. That perversion of a child-friendly character is sort of the core appeal of the original FNaF animatronics, and the game concept as a whole. And they're all basically creepypasta characters. Freddy Fazbear, that silly singing bear from that old restaurant you went to as a kid, oh, wouldn't he be creepy if he walked around at night going hoi 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 or whatever it is. Simple concept. Sister Location had introduced a more sentient animatronic, Circus Baby. What a great name. And that one actually talks to you. It has a goal it's working towards, a very fucked up goal, which is interesting at least. And Security Breach, it feels like it takes a step back from that. It actively shows the animatronics having like specific vocal personalities, which is great, but most of their actions as that are just the Pizzaplex's their designed surface level characterization of them. It's no different than their quotes as you're walking around the Plex. It all feels wasteful in the end. I get that Gregory, aka you, the player, are supposed to be horrified by your beloved characters turning into these evil monsters and chasing you around, becoming disfigured as the game progresses. The problem for me is that they are a threat right from the start. You never encounter them as like the good, normal characters that Gregory would relate to be friendly with. The exception being Freddy, who I guess is shouldering that entire good bot concept. I think the game sort of wants you to be sort of scared of Freddy, the only good bot, because you're afraid he's going to betray you. Look at Freddy in game when you call to him and he stomps over in that sort of really loud unsettling way, and he just stands there menacingly, his eyes glowing in the dark while he's waiting for you to like get inside him or tell him something to do. As the game progresses, he gets like dirtier and damaged and he becomes cracked. Yet throughout the entire game, Freddy is perfectly kind, really a children's entertainer. Again, as long as the safeties are turned on. And the game wants you to play around with those trust issues. You stay inside of Freddy too long, he rips your face off. That duality, that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde concept, it's intriguing if very binary. Gregory has himself a monster for a best friend. Can you really let your guard down around him? Can you feel safe? And the answer is yes, because they are very clear when Freddy is going into his dangerous mode whenever you're upgrading him. While Freddy remains stable, mostly, the other animatronics are not. They are consumed by their hides, their dark sides. When Monty gets mad, he starts ripping people in two. But what is his good side? What is his Dr. Jekyll? The game never explores that. Maybe he just needs a friend. Maybe he's just a lovable dope. But we never know what is really the cause of his anger issues, the jealousy. I mean, it's obviously just because he's an insane robot. That's simple enough, but that's sort of boring. The duality of good and bad, that easily translates back to humans, and we can see that. Why do people do bad things? It's because they themselves are hurting in some way. You figure out what that hurt is, you can make steps to resolve it. The interesting thing is that, hurt people are capable of terrible things. Immortal, super strong robots are on a whole different level of terror that they can cause. The concept of an AI-controlled animatronic being overwhelmed by human emotions, whether coming from captured brain scan or spirit or from their AI programming going bad, and then being capable of such acts of violence, that's what I'm interested in exploring. Especially from the view of a child who only knows the Glamrocks as friends, finding little characters that make them happy. I can imagine Gregory is hurt by seeing the Glamrocks this way. They're monsters now, they've changed, so why not try to fix them? It's funny because that's what you do in the good ending of the base game. You fix Vanessa, you free her from Glitch Trap's control. Why not do that for the animatronics? It's easy to show them as being tragic figures that are victims of Fazbear Entertainment just creating them, regardless of being orphan-powered or not. Just the concept of them being programmed in ways that are contradictory to their personalities or their states is interesting enough. Or Roxy wants to win every race, but she can't always beat the kids. They have to win occasionally, so they programmed her to just lose sometimes. Chica's the face of the concessions and the food services of the Mega Pizzaplex, yet she wasn't even designed to be able to eat and process food, but they compelled her to do so. Of course they're going haywire. They're humans who can't be humans. So if we're shifting to helping out the animatronics, the Glamrocks, we have to change a few things around. I imagine instead of Freddy getting all the upgrades from the others, you can actually convince them to join you against Afton AI, gaining their Metroidvania traversal power-ups in the process. That's sort of a cake and eat it too scenario where you could do battle with each animatronic, some sort of challenge or whatever, race against Roxy, and then you resolve their issue, help them be less crazy. The complications of how to ease specific mental trauma are a bit too complicated to go into detail here, but it's perhaps easier to say, you just flip a switch. Reboot them into safe mode, much like Freddy. Help them out in some way. I'll acknowledge this. What we're losing here is the aspect of horror of watching your favorite characters, your friends, become disfigured monsters. In the base game, after you battle with each animatronic, they end up shattered, as the game calls it. Their outer shells are smashed in various ways, revealing the horrifying, nightmarish endoskeletons underneath. That makes them less effective, typically, at hunting Gregory down, but there's a horrifying aspect of seeing them lurch around, broken. Example, Roxy, who becomes blinded and almost psychotic with rage after you shatter her and you take her eyes. That's very much horror, just an unpleasant, uncomfortable situation where she's just screaming at you and you are just trying not to make sound because that's the only way she can detect you anymore. It's easy to remain calm when Chica's walking around normally being a ditz, trying to get you, but when she's staggering, making unearthly sounds, head spinning around due to you ripping out her voice box, that's a much more harrowing feeling. That's something I think the base game actually does sort of well, even if it's missing the initial, good state for those characters to be in. A balanced concept of these two ideas would be nice. Obviously, we can do something like you can shatter the Glamrocks in a boss battle scenario, get that tech core, but then you repair them afterwards. Racing against Roxy. You smash into her a few times with the cart, steal her upgrade or something, and then you have the tech gore chase sequence before you finally defeat her. And then little Gregory says, Roxy, is being almost destroyed worth it just to win a stupid race? Your after school special her or whatever. And Roxy learns that being a bitch isn't cool. It's fine to lose, actually. You learn from it. Most importantly, you get an opportunity to reboot her into safe mode a la Freddy, free her from Afton AI's control, and she sort of chills out. Same character, less murderous, less possessed by those evil, fucked up psychotic desires. Now, since the Glamrocks have their chill-out arcs or whatever, we have gaps in our threat roster. A solution is finding other creepy robots to be the dedicated horror figures. That's obvious enough. Using the security bots around the Plex as more frightening figures, giving them the same ramping up of disfigurement as you progress through the game, ripped up faces, strange alterations and upgrades, and stuff like that. There's a few in the base game that have been altered by Vanny, presumably, to be more scary. That could work. The blank endoskeletons in the base game are actually quite frightening, totally nailing that murderous Terminator metal skeleton motif. Imagine all these generic enemies. The more simple ones, they're more like the arms of Afton. They're far easier to control. They don't need the good side or anything. And so they're more susceptible for his obvious corruption. They sort of tech gore out as the game progresses. There's the sun and moon animatronic, which is like the daycare attendant to the Plex. He has a multiple personality motif where the sun persona just wants to play all the time, he's friendly, and the moon wants to shove kids into wood chippers. You could do stuff with that pretty easily. There's the DJ Music Man and his little versions. And of course it wouldn't hurt to have Vanny show up more. Really what I'm aiming here for is that the Glamrocks are sort of the good animatronics that you sort of want to save, and the other ones are bad animatronics who have Gregory has no connection to them, so he doesn't really feel bad about them being destroyed or whatever. And there's other stuff, like maybe Afton has created a few new horrifying surprises that the company doesn't know about. A really cool idea I had would be if he's resurrected the original Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Froxy as these shambling monsters, the withered animatronics as I've seen them called in those specific forms. That could completely fulfill the need for disgusting, horrifying, tech gore mascot characters chasing little Gregory around. Completely insane monsters, no reasoning with them. Perhaps after you befriend one of the Glamrocks, you can have it do battle with its evil counterpart. Maybe a bit goofy, but that would be pretty fun. Another idea we could play with is having another central antagonist alongside Vanny and Afton. And that could be Bonnie, Glamrock Bonnie specifically. It's vague in the base game, but it's implied that the band lineup originally included a Glamrock Bonnie. He was just replaced with Monty for some undisclosed reason. For whatever reason, the shattered Glamrock Bonnie could serve as a main antagonist, an enforcer type, one that's smarter than the rest of the other bots. Upgraded with the latest tech and possessing the same level of personality as the current Glamrocks. Character-wise, he's bitter about being left behind, he feels betrayed. Maybe Afton has tricked him into believing that all of his bandmates conspired against him. And he abuses that psychosis into his desire to harm the Glamrocks after Afton loses control of them via Gregory's actions. Bonnie in a shattered state could be a focused, relentless force. He enters the area like Mr. X, and you have to avoid him because he's fully capable of not only hurting Gregory, but he can also destroy the Glamrocks themselves. And again, you can have that tragic antagonist angle. Glamrock Bonnie may only need he needs an Undertale-style boss battle where you sort of reason with him. Hey, Afton he's a huge dick. He was the one who actually broke you, or it was all accident and misunderstanding, etc. Summarily, the Glamrocks were built too smart and sort of too wrong. The game structure could revolve around needing to rescue the Glamrocks and maybe other animatronics from Afton's control, and then using them to pierce into his inner lair to defeat him once and for all. It's a bit of injury, sure, but I think people would just prefer characters who are able to do things and develop and grow, and then they get to do stuff that's cool later on, instead of them just being relegated to the same 10 audio lines that they spit out while they hunt Gregory down. A lot of what I've done here is probably bloat the game tremendously. I'll be honest about that. I'm talking about entire themed areas for each Glamrock and possibly other animatronics, a new set of tech gore dedicated antagonists, probably tons and tons of new dialogue and set pieces, have an actual story. As a semi-open world environment where numerous animatronics can stalk you across many different stages and areas, it'd be very difficult to design all that. And the game structure would probably need to be linearized quite a bit to account for a specific area being an animatronic's area of control. You go there, deal with them to get a power-up that lets you go to the next place, and then there's backtracking to previous areas for additional items, or keys to other areas. You redress those with new challenges and threats, perhaps as you slowly start navigating down into the depths of the Plex, with trips back up to the theme park sections to deal with the Glamrocks. These underground areas, the employee housing, kitchen factories, labs, whatever, waste disposal, those are more controlled and populated by the Afton bots, the ones that are sort of fucked up. And as the game progresses, they slowly work their ways up to the main level, and they'll cause destruction, power outages, change how the levels are laid out. Gameplay-wise, really all you need are interesting puzzles, set pieces that are fun, and level traversal that doesn't feel like a slog. The gameplay aspect it's ironically the least important to me. Like a walking horror sim is a walking horror sim. I think you specifically sell Security Breach, aside from really interesting story premises and characters, is by allowing the player to explore many side areas for lore, items, and stuff like that, making the levels sort of warp constantly back on overlap one another like Dark Souls style to sort of ease with backtracking. Allow the player to gain security-based power-ups, security breach, and like noise distractions, active camera feeds for scouting, hacking to slow down bots and disable bots, turn off lights to sneak better, etc. It might be a stretch since you're playing as a 10-year-old, but it's something, or you can just abstract that, or the bots give you that power to do those things. It's not so much about the gameplay as it about the story and location. Good characters, good locations, and good set pieces will carry Mojo's security breach. Just avoid difficulty, avoid tedium as best you can. And in all honesty, if I allowed myself full creative freedom on gameplay, I'm handing Greg a shotgun and I'm just going to turn this into Resident Evil, because that's just more interesting to me. Probably can't be a kid at that point, but having an adult in that position probably would lead to lots of different types of fan art. So we've got a condensed backstory that could all be easily told in lore notes, audio logs, a few key cutscenes and things like that, some nice ones. As you descend into the Plex, you find older notes and you dig up all that juicy past, that lore, all the way down to the bottom where you find that evidence of the pivotal scene where Henry and Afton clashed. And the Glamrocks, they become your allies over the games, or your semi-allies, and they have enough sentience to understand what's been happening and perhaps the nature of their existence. They learn a little bit something about themselves. I don't know if they're going to walk into the sunset or whatever, but it's better than just being stuck as insane robots killing kids. They'll help you access all the parts of the Pizzaplex so you can eventually make your way to the central processing mainframe server or whatever, so you can drag Afton AI to the trash bin, ending his decade-long killing spree of random kids. Free Vanessa from Afton's control, and, that would be nice. Fazbear Entertainment avoids a bloodbath on that big concert day or whatever it is, though I'm not sure what to do with them actually. If Henry's still around, maybe we can convince him that maybe all this child-powered robot stuff isn't good, and he can sort of nuke the company or put an end to all that. Or, maybe he's like another obstacle. He's another villain representing the sheer blind greed of the company. I'm not all concerned with, the plot points and specifics. At a certain point, we can just make the game endless, to be honest, which we should probably avoid. I'm just concerned with making the game good, to making the game interesting, to make use of that Pizzaplex as a cool location, and to have some neat character stuff with the Glamrocks and all their animatronic nature, and get some good science fiction writing in there. And again, all this stuff can be done in so many different ways. Hell, you can get rid of Gregory actually, and just play as Freddy the entire time and make it Bioshock 2. Well, I talked for a really long time there. I bet you can tell how badly my voice has given out. Yeah, really long for a game series that I, quote, do not care about. I find this type of sweaty brainstorming to be quite engaging. Here's hoping that I didn't step on too many toes or suggest too many stupid things. I'm certain without a doubt that there's numerous places where I have misinterpreted some lore or glossed over some crucial detail that could have really added to my brave new FNaF. My goal was just to reinterpret everything, so it could just be all shoved into Security Breach as a nice contained game. Just so I could have my cool environment, my shady, immoral company, my sexy robots all under one roof. And I don't need me no books, no movies, no flash games, no VR games, just some mildly interesting first-person adventure games with lots of interesting characters. Maybe even some gameplay even. And at this point, I can see how Security Breach could have just been a reboot of the entire franchise. It's a new genre, first-person walking around simulator. It's a new protagonist, a new type of one anyway, a kid for once, instead of some poor security guard I don't care about FNaF 4, fuck off. And it's a brand new Freddy, one that doesn't want to rip your face off for once. And I chose to approach it like that, as a reboot. I'd take some older themes and rework them into something that I prefer personally. And I'm really interested to see how I did. If I presented any cool ideas that resonated with you, that made you point at the screen like Leonardo DiCaprio. Or if I even just piss you off by dribbling out some trash opinions that you think are garbage. Or if I'm just saying the same exact shit that people have been saying for years. You all definitely know how to let me know how I did. As for the art, I hope it's passable. I haven't even finished it yet. I draw so much fucking porn that my eyes are permanently glazed over at this point, just from sheer apathy, which makes me blind technically, so I hope whatever this artwork ended up looking like is good. I meant to draw an obese 600-pound chica absolutely destroying a McDonald's bathroom stall, so hopefully I got close. Anyways, check out the channel for more of my animations. Get the real content. Hopefully I'll be animating again real soon. Anyways, until then, I'll check back with y'all later. See ya.